Thanks to those who've signed on early. We're going to give it just a couple more minutes. Okay, 7:05. We'll go ahead and get started. So, good evening. Thanks for coming. Um, and welcome to Art and Wellbeing, the Open Studio process, which is brought to you by NAMI Cook County North Suburban and Rob Lentz from Open Studio Project. So Open Studio Project is a nonprofit arts and social service organization based out of Evanston. Their mission is to bring the transformative power of art to individuals for personal growth, social emotional learning, and community well-being. So through workshops, classes, gallery exhibits, and community partnerships, they promote art making as a safe and reliable tool for unlocking creativity, healing, and transformation. Open Studio Project provides school-based programs to pre-K through high school students, expressive arts workshops to adults for professional development and personal growth, specialized art programming for individuals experiencing homelessness, adults with disabilities, veterans, and court-involved youth, and individual and group therapeutic arts to youth and adults. So my name's Courtney. I'm the Adult and Family Programs Manager at NAMI CCNS. If you haven't heard of NAMI, they're the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization that provides public awareness, no-cost support, and education programs online and in person so that people and families affected by mental health conditions can build better lives. We offer classes, support groups, presentations, and advocate for mental health. Our programs are free and open to those in our community service areas. So this year, each month, mental health professionals will dig deep into a variety of topics to further educate us on our community members' topics of interest. This workshop will be introduced to the Open Studio process that is the core of the Open Studio Project's mission and programs. This process was developed over 30 years ago by art therapists seeking a new way to engage their clients, which flattened the hierarchy of conventional therapy and restored the primary role of creativity in improving mental health. It's now practiced all over the world. The process has proved to be infinitely adaptable and uniquely effective at harnessing the transformative power of art for individual and community well-being. Our Q&A will be held at the end of the presentation, but if you want to type questions, we have a Q&A box or just the general chat. You can type that into the conversation. Please do. And I'm just going to introduce Rob a little bit. So Rob Lentz is an artist, curator, and nonprofit leader with an extensive background in community-based organizations focused on visual art as a pathway to well-being. So an MFA graduate of the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, Rob is a founder and former director of Project Onward, a nonprofit studio and gallery that supports artists living with developmental disabilities and mental illness. Rob joined Evanston's Open Studio Project in 2021 as program director, where he put his experience mentoring diverse artist populations to work by expanding programs to engage unhoused individuals, court-involved youth, immigrant and refugee teens, and military veterans. As Open Studio Project's executive director, Rob advocates for greater access to art for all as an essential healing practice and a vital form of self-expression. Rob has written, lectured, and curated extensively about outsider and self-taught art and the disability arts movement. Rob serves on the board of directors of Intuit Art Museum in Chicago's West Town. So we're excited to have him here tonight to further educate us on this topic. So I'm honored to welcome our speaker, Rob.
Thank you, Courtney. Wow, what an introduction. That was really great. Well, I mean, I wrote it, so it's not really a surprise, but really kind introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I'm grateful for the invitation, and I'm happy for all of you who have taken the time to learn more about us. I can't see any of you, but I know you're there. So thanks. I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen and get into this presentation. As Courtney said, you can put questions in the chat and we'll do a Q&A towards the end. But if you have a burning question, you're welcome to just unmute and holler if you need to. So let's see if I can get this to work.
I think I can give you all the ability to talk if you're comfortable, but you guys can remain unmuted, just so we can have a little bit of a more open discussion, but no pressure to talk. Just that's an option.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so yes, that was a little introduction about me and about Open Studio Project. And I'm gonna just go through our well-being is kind of my favorite word. I've been using a lot lately. It's kind of part of our tagline because I feel like it's just a great way of talking about the whole person and the way that we can be in this world and take care of ourselves and others. So it's a very useful word for us, and the combination of art and well-being I think is really powerful. So we'll explore some of that tonight. I'm Rob Lentz. I'm the executive director of Open Studio Project. Courtney gave us a really good introduction. I'm an artist, and I've just been an artist my whole life, and I am very fortunate because I have so few marketable skills that I've been able to kind of parlay my experience as an artist and a curator and the things I'm really interested in into what I guess you could call a career. Who knew? But I'm really excited to have landed at Open Studio Project because it does kind of combine so many of my interests. And I am, as I was telling Courtney before, Open Studio and the Open Studio process is like my favorite topic. I love to talk about it. So I'm going to be sharing a lot with you. I just wanted to give a quick run through of what we're gonna be talking about. I'll tell you a little bit more about Open Studio Project and where the Open Studio process came from, and we'll be talking again about art and well-being, some of the problems that our process seeks to address, and the benefits of making art. And then we'll spend a lot of time talking about the process itself, which has four main components: intention, setting, art making, witness writing, and sharing. And a main sort of component of this process is no comment. We conduct our workshops and our classes in a judgment-free zone, and that's something that's going to keep coming up over and over, and brings up lots of interesting concepts. So yeah, so this is these two images are our storefronts in South Evanston. The one on the right is our gallery and office, and the one on the left is our studio space where we do in-person programming. We have been in this space in Evanston for about 25 years, but the organization itself was started in the early 90s in Chicago by a group of art therapists, and it has just grown and grown and grown. And it's interesting to see how the world has sort of, in a way, caught up with the mission that we started with over 30 years ago. Issues about mental health, and we have NAMI to thank for a lot of this. I think issues around mental health are talked about a lot more today. There's language that I think people are more comfortable with, so we're able to have an awareness around well-being that maybe wasn't there 30 years ago. So that's really pretty great. Our mission, as Courtney mentioned, is to bring the transformative power of art directly to individuals for personal growth, social emotional learning, and community well-being. And so the kind of the three pillars of our mission, and this idea of transformation through art, is personal growth is like the individual. That's like our personal experience of art making, and also exploring who we are, what makes us tick, and gaining an awareness of ourselves and how we move through the world. Social emotional learning is really geared towards school settings, but social emotional skills are something that everybody needs and benefits from, obviously. But part of the adaptations that we have gone through the years with the Open Studio process is social emotional learning is one of them, being able to adapt our concepts to younger audiences and different learning styles and different settings. So with personal growth, it's the individual. Social emotional learning starts to move the circle out to the people around us, and we sort of work on our relationships with other people. And then sort of the largest part of the circle is the community. So these are all skills that we build as humans, and we see art making as a really great way to work on those skills and to build our competencies for being good people. So we have this set of core values that again are grow out of the mission, and the fundamental to all this, of course, is creativity. And if you look at the sort of circle, this globe that we often refer to, with Open Studio at the core, and everything radiates out from this process that we're going to be talking about. So when we talk about creativity, we're talking about imagination. We're talking about making something out of nothing, and this idea of play. So we're working with the idea that creativity can take us back to the sort of childlike state of play, no matter what age we are. And no judgment is this really important concept. No critique, no praise, no comment. So this is all we try to protect the creative process for each person without a lot of feedback, so that the process itself can be as authentic as possible. And so from creativity, we hit those three pillars that I was just talking about. We've got personal growth, which is that inner personal sort of private part of ourselves that we sort of turn inward when we make art. And then moving into social emotional learning, where we're starting to think about how other people think and feel, we're the building blocks of empathy, and then leading outward to the community at large. And the idea that our ultimate goal is belonging, and the idea that a community can be tied together through creativity is pretty powerful stuff. And so briefly, the Open Studio process is intention setting, uninhibited art making, and reflective writing to deepen self-awareness, find balance, and experience freedom and play. And as you can see from the images, the process itself can be adapted for children, adults, and everybody in between. So the Open Studio process originated with, as I mentioned before, a group of art therapists who were trained at the School of the Art Institute, my alma mater. And Pat Allen, who you'll see pictured here, was really the originator of these concepts and this sort of philosophy of the Open Studio process. When she started the organization in the early 90s with Dana Block, one of her students, who is still with the organization and is an amazing art therapist. They were looking at using these tools of art making in a different way than art therapy was predominantly used at the time, which they were sort of reacting against the over clinification of art therapy and thinking about different ways to work with clients that was not so hierarchical. And they developed this way of facilitation that was a process where the therapist and the client were co-creators. So there wasn't a sort of a power dynamic. It's about everybody's making art together. We're sharing the same process, and we're listening to each other, and we're learning from each other. Oh, I forgot I had this slide. But this is what I just said. That was developed over 30 years ago. And that idea of flattening the hierarchy and restoring creativity to art therapy rather than it being just a diagnostic tool or a sort of a cold process that was divorced from creativity. So it was really about kind of restoring that idea that the therapist and the client can both benefit from working through this process and as co-creators. And they call it the artist in residence model, which is a little confusing because it makes it sound like it's a residency, but the idea is that the therapist or the facilitator is embedded with the participants, and we're all making stuff together. And I just, Courtney mentioned some of the things that we do. I just wanted to kind of give you a flavor of where we take this process and how we use it with different populations. We do a lot of youth programs, school-based art residencies. We work with a couple of schools in Chicago public schools, and those are incredible experiences. We are there in the classrooms during the school day. And that's been a really rich experience, and we've learned a lot about how much the process can be adapted and what it can do for different ages. We do a lot of after school programming, which we find to be it's a kind of a crucial time to work with young people. They've been they've been in school all day. They've got a lot of stuff going on. They've got a lot of energy, but they've also got a lot on their minds. And so being able to bring them art and talk about the things that are on their minds and help them to process and think about the things that they're going through and being with their peers. It's a really wonderful thing to be able to do. Outside of school settings, we work with a number of community partners, and this is not strictly youth, but also with adults as well. And that's been something that we have, as an organization, we've been committed to from the very beginning. And then we have summer camp. This is a view of our studio in the summertime, which gets pretty chaotic and a lot of fun. And this is where again, the adaptations that we've developed for the process. This is a fashion camp. You can see the sewing machines there. This is a way to just take the process in all different directions. You can use this with all different processes and media and get a lot of really interesting and helpful results. And then our adult programs, and this is kind of what we're going to be sort of focusing on tonight when we're talking about the process. For our adult programs, and our core adult program is called Art and Wellness, which is a class that we offer every week. There's an in-person class in our studio on Thursday evenings, and then there are two virtual sessions on Thursday and Friday mornings. I could talk more about that later if you're interested. We also work with clients who are, we work with companies, we work with school systems, we work with other nonprofits who want to kind of help develop their workplace culture or address some of the issues that they might be working through as work teams, but also, and we do this in the process called art and envisioning, which is we bring art processes to these work teams to work through. It could be, working on a new mission statement or strategic planning, or it could just be, it's time to get these folks together outside of the office and just relax and be with each other outside of work. And a similar version of that we call art and renewal, and that is for helping professionals. So teachers, counselors, social workers, other therapists, people who have super emotionally demanding jobs. They're prone to burnout, and this is a way to, again, bring people together outside of the workplace and kind of process experience, relax, lower the cortisol, and have and just be creative together. And then finally, we do a number of trainings and learning sessions like this one, but we train people, individuals, and also groups in our facilitation process. And we also have a social emotional learning curriculum for teachers that we also have a training for. Oh, that's a lot of that. So why? I couldn't really think of a better transition slide, so I just said why. But the reason we do all this, and the reason that we focus on well-being, is that the world's kind of a mess, and things are intermittently on fire. And this process has been around for a long time. And when I say that the world is catching up to us, part of that is really good because people are more aware of mental health issues, and they're also more aware of the benefits that art and art making can have for mental health. But it also means that when the world is really terrible, which I kind of think this age qualifies, we can kind of do something about it in our own small way. And again, as I say, I have no marketable skills in this area. I'm not a politician or a physician or any person who can move the needle except with art. I mean, that's what I know how to do, and that's why I love this process, because it gives me a sense of, well, maybe there is something I could do to help, and it helps me too. So this is the reason we do. This is the why that we do what we do. Um, I have two teenagers. The Anxious Generation is a book that hit pretty hard with talking about screen time with kids and the isolation that they're experiencing and the way that their brains are being rewired, which is just building on top of the pandemic, was really some very sobering and enlightening in its own way. And this is probably the most impactful publication that I've come across in my career, which this came out a couple of years ago, the Surgeon General's advisory on loneliness and isolation, the epidemic of loneliness. And I just, I'm gonna, yeah, here we go. I'm just gonna read this part. And I'm sure you've heard about this, you've read it. The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to that caused by smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. That's hard to think of a more succinct and startling statistic about loneliness. And add to that stress and everything that is happening in the world, the kinds of pressures that we're all under as citizens, as parents, as workers, all of the places that we inhabit, our workplaces, our schools, even our homes are just seem to be filled with stress. And so that's one of the reasons that I love to come to work, because I can do something about it. This slide, to be honest with you, I had some images of what's going on, and I found them triggering. I live in Albany Park in Chicago, and my neighborhood has seen a lot of ICE activity, and it's very upsetting. They're coming after my neighbors, and that is very much on my mind. But I don't, I'm not going to belabor that on these slides. But suffice to say, there's a lot going on, and again, it's easy to feel helpless and worried about the things that are going on outside, and not sort of taking care of ourselves. So that's another reason that the process is really an important thing. And sort of, I'm bringing this back to Jung, who's always good for some wisdom, and was very influential in Pat Allen's development of the process. But he said, loneliness is not the absence of people; it is the inability to express what matters to you most. And I think that most of us have experienced this, especially if you're on a train or on a plane and everyone is looking at their phones, but there's a huge crowd of people. This idea of being alone in a crowd is unfortunately, or well, for better or worse, is a very familiar experience to us. And what I find interesting about social media, for example, is for all of its ills, I think what it shows is that people are, number one, disconnected, but they're looking for connection and find it in a way through social media. And especially with Instagram or some of the other tools that are out there, Snapchat, it's also, at least to me, suggests that people really need to express themselves. And those are platforms where, in its own way, people are able to do that, and they're able to reach other people. Is it my favorite way to do that? No, but I think it does speak to um, some of the yearnings that are out there for people. So this is this is the good news. I've been doing art and with nonprofits and as an educator and a facilitator and every form of organization for the last 25 or 30 years. And I have experienced anecdotally the benefits of art making for people. I've seen it. I see people um, get really energized. I see people's whole affect change because of art. I see them get really interested in something I've been interested before. So many benefits. But for the longest time, as I said, that's just anecdotal. And all of a sudden, in the last few years, there's all of this research, all this scientific research, these neurological imaging, all of this evidence for the actual benefits of interacting with art on the human brain. That means, consuming art, going to plays, and making art. All of these things are really have an effect on us, and I finally have some evidence that I can show to people. So I'm gonna go through a few of these. Engaging with art reduces stress, promotes emotional regulation, and boosts mental well-being, improving daily moods and overall balance. Again, this is something I've seen time and time again, but now that scientists are proving it, it's easier for me to talk about. So that's pretty great. The arts build, heal, and foster resilience, helps process trauma, reframe experiences, which is a great way to say that, and support emotional growth. Sensory engagement in the arts enhances memory and creativity, strengthening neural connections and boosting retention and learning through multisensory activation. And finally, the most important one to me, art fosters social connection, promotes empathy, and deepens social bonds by enabling shared creativity and emotional resonance in community. And I think those of us who are art people, I think we understand that being creative and making art has like instant benefits for us personally. But when you add a community element to that, when you make art or you go to see art with other people, all those benefits are just magnified. And this idea of being connected to other people in ways that don't have to involve talking to them, which is not always my favorite thing, it's incredibly powerful and very energizing, and I think it makes people have great experiences that stick with them. And it sort of reinforces all these other things about reducing stress, this idea of resilience and neuroplasticity. So we're able to form new neural pathways by experiencing art, which allows us to, as they say here, reframe experiences, and that's crucial to recovering from trauma. And art can do that for us. Okay, so let's talk about the Open Studio process itself. The most important thing about the process is safety, and by safety I mean psychological safety. And because if we are able to bring people together as a group, again, no matter how old they are or what their background is or what their abilities are, if we can get them in a room together where they feel safe and where they feel supported, then their creativity can really flourish. And so that starts with making sure that people understand that we are going to treat each other with respect. We have a whole list of norms, which might be, if you're familiar with like community agreements or people coming up with mutual ideas about how they're going to treat each other. So nothing is going to happen in that room that doesn't have an understanding around it that we're going to be treated with respect. We're going to, for example, speak only for ourselves and not for the group. We are not going to comment on people's work, and we're going to, we're going to observe these rules or guidelines so that everybody feels safe. And the other thing is that the process itself is not geared towards expertise at all, and it's not geared towards learning. We are not, when we have our classes, we're not there to teach people how to make art. People come to us often and wanting to, well, do you do a drawing class or can I learn how to paint? And our perspective is it's sort of like fireworks. It's light, fuse, and get away. So we bring all this art stuff, and we'll have a few guidelines, but our emphasis is on the process. So we want people to feel comfortable with the process itself. So no experience necessary. A lot of the people that we work with are not art people. If they are young people, they may have not had access to art in their school. And if they're older people, they may be what I call art averse, and they've had creativity sort of drummed out of them, either by school or adults who don't value the arts. And so we kind of have to get those people back. And that's kind of my favorite thing to do, because it's amazing how quickly you can turn people around. It's never too late. And we emphasize this idea of process over product. So we are not we're not interested in necessarily making masterpieces of art. We're really interested in people diving into the process, getting messy, and really thinking about how the making of the art itself can help them externalize thoughts and feelings, can help them process experience, which might include trauma, but really value this making of art over what it might actually look like in the end. And again, this idea that we come back to over and over of no comment is we're reinforcing this idea that this is a judgment-free zone. If we're here to get dirty and explore what's happening inside, and we're invested in the process, then we're not going to comment on that process, because we want everybody to show up authentically and really experience it without distraction. So the four components of the Open Studio process are setting an intention, making art, which is the bulk of what we do. And we call this making art without limits. And without limits really means no boundaries, no expectations, very little guidance unless it's asked for, and if we're maybe introducing a new material. But we really want people to explore. And in order to do that, it's anything goes. The third part of the process is witnessing, is what we call witness writing. So we look at the work and then we reflect on the process and we write about it. And the last part of the process is sharing and listening. And the first three parts of the process, anybody can do. You can do this process by yourself. A lot of people do, and they get a lot out of it. I do it occasionally just to kind of ground myself and recenter and be creative in a way that's comfortable for me. But it's that fourth part, that sharing and listening part, where the real power, the real magic of the process is, because doing all this with other people is really powerful, and it brings you out of your own experience, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but I do want to plant this seed. The idea of making art with other people is not just about our making, it's about everyone's making. And we're able to create something and reflect on it and then share our experience of the process with other people. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to share with people and not worry about what people are going to say. And that's where the no comment is a sort of a protective bubble there. But the flip side of that is that we are able to look at what other people have made using the same process that we've made, and we're able to listen to what they have to say. And if we're not going to comment, we're really listening hard. And it's an amazing experience. And if you do that with a a large enough group of people, it's really transformative. So the first thing we do is set an intention. This card here that you see is something that we use with some of our participants. If we have a class that's going to meet for 6 weeks or 12 weeks, all the participants will get a journal and they'll do all of their writing um, and sketching, doodling, whatever they're going to do that's related to the process. They will do it in that journal and they'll keep that for the whole time. But there are other times when we might see a group of people for a one-time workshop, and so we've made these cards, which has this prompt on it: reflect on how you're feeling and state what you'd like to gain from art making time. And this individual has understood the assignment, and they've talked about what it is they want to get out of art making time. What is their intention? And you can see that where they're saying, I feel calm, and then they've embellished a little bit, which I love, a little blue, a little pink, a little gold. And it's not just writing, they're also drawing, and they're just being really creative and expressive, but also thinking really deeply about this part of the process. But what you'll see is with an intention, we invite people to just check in with themselves. And the first part is often we invite people to just do some free writing, which we often call degunking, taking some of that stuff that's stuck in your head and getting it out on paper. And a really valuable part of that is just naming your feelings. What are you bringing into the room? And what is something that you're feeling that you might not have really thought about? Because again, we're busy, we're stressed out, other things are happening. But we come into the process and we're able to regulate and slow down and really pay attention to what's going on inside. And we offer suggestions for how to write an intention. So we invite people to use active words and to form an intention in the present tense, as if this state that you want to achieve is already happening, sort of like manifesting. And we often have these posters up, and we have these in our studio and in the classrooms where we take our work too. So these are sentence stems that are sort of like starters for how you might write an intention. And everything is in the present tense. These are all very active sort of things that you might claim for yourself. Claim is a great one. I claim my power, or I step into my power. I mean, you can sort of pick whichever one kind of calls to you. I often will just when I'm writing my intention, and again, this is sort of it's not it can be a goal, but it's really about what is the state that you're in right now, and what do you want that state to be when you're done with your work. But I like to sort of check in with myself, and I'll say something like, I'm present. I'm here. I'm here physically. I'm here mentally. I'm here for other people. So it's for myself, but also for being mindful of the rest of the group. It's a really great sort of grounding exercise that combines, mindfulness with starting to think about what's the process going to be. How am I gonna step into this creativity? And this is an example of one of the journals. And so in a lot of our classes, the first day, we invite people to like personalize their journals. So we'll do collage and drawing and all kinds of things on the cover. And that's the place where they're always going to be coming back to write down their thoughts and feelings. The big part is making art, of course, and again, this idea of making art without limits. This is a work team that we worked with that was really fun. They were doing collage work, and it was really interesting when we do groups like this that some people are really nervous and have zero confidence about making art, and other people are some of them are practicing artists and they're really into it. And that's kind of the beauty of the process, is that we're able to meet both ends of that spectrum with the process. This is a quote that I love, speaking of someone who is an actual artist. This thing that George O'Keeffe said about painting and just about art in general. The abstraction is often the most definite form for the intangible in myself that I can only clarify in paint. I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for. That's about as good an encapsulation of art therapy as I can think of. This idea that we are sitting with things that we may not have words for, or that we're not ready to talk about, or there's something preventing those things from being spoken. And art is a way to externalize those things. We don't have to say them, we don't have to use words, but we can do something with those thoughts and feelings that is productive and can move us along on this path to whatever it is, healing or acceptance or knowledge or whatever we need to do to kind of process what's inside. And so when we're making art without limits, we're asking people to have no preconceptions, which is not easy to do, but we try to be as open-ended as possible. We don't worry about the outcome. We're really focusing on the process itself. All of our projects are super simple, very accessible. And I'll go through a few examples of those in a minute. We use very basic materials. We're trying to keep the bar low and make people feel comfortable jumping right in and using materials that need very little instruction. Again, we're focusing on process over product. I have music on here because I didn't want to forget to talk about music. Whenever we're making art with a group, there's music. And depending on the type of project, the music is sort of attuned to the energy or the vibe of what the project is geared towards accomplishing. This is Ted, who is one of our just amazing facilitators. He's also the president of our board, and he is just a true believer in the process. And here he is doing a project called Energy Made Visible, which is a drawing project that we do. And the way that this is carried out is that the drawing is done on a wall. So, and it's a fairly large scale, and he's using oil pastels. And so the relationship to the art making is it's embodied. So we're using the whole body, and there's a lot of activity and big strokes. And so we tend to play music that is really energetic and rhythmic, but no words to distract, and often something that's not like a recognizable song. Could be like what we used to call world music because it's less familiar, but that's I tend to go more towards the kinds of electronic music that's out there now, like these lo-fi, chill, hop, whatever they're calling them now. But it's really satisfying. It's sort of like music that kind of never ends, and it has a rhythm to it. And it's not quite in the background. It's a little bit more further than the background, but it's something that really helps people to get into this kind of state of flow. And that's really kind of the optimal condition that we want people to get into. And if you do the art and wellness class for a while, it's like a 2-hour class, and you can really dive pretty deep. Another process is painting, which we call honoring the creative impulse. Again, we do this on the wall. You can do it in any sort of format or any size, but we invite people to paint directly on the wall, again, with larger sheets of paper. So there's this whole embodied sense of creating. This is a training group, and you can see how the paints are arranged chromatically, so it's easy to find, and we try to make the process as sort of frictionless as possible so people can just start splashing. I'm a sculptor. This is my favorite project. This is a really fun form of sculpture that only uses aluminum foil and masking tape. And it was developed by this amazing art therapist named Don Seiden, who was very instrumental in the formation of the Open Studio process, and was just an incredible educator and kind of one of the fathers of art therapy in Chicago. These are some more of these projects. It's a really amazing organic way of making sculpture that really is super adaptable. The bird up on top was made by Don. It's one of his little relics that we have around. There's an in process piece on the bottom that a student was working on, and the ladder on the left was made by me when I was first being trained. And this is just a way to show all of the possibilities that are available working with this. Again, very simple, very unintimidating material that you probably have in your pantry that anybody can use. Collage, I mentioned before, is a really it's really an important kind of modality for us because anybody can make a collage. You don't have to know how to paint or draw or do sculpture. And the thing that I really love about collage, and here's a group of art therapists actually doing this process, is that when we do collage, we do a little bit of front end work to pull the materials together. You know, it's magazines, maps, colored paper, googly eyes, all this kind of stuff, and it's random. So we give each person sort of a random collection, and the task is then not to create something from scratch, like a blank, you know, the horror of a blank piece of paper if you have to draw something or paint something, but it's about finding meaning. So there's all these images and words and random associations that are in front of you. So the task is how do you find that meaning, or how do you put together something from this random? How do you? It's like finding making order out of chaos, you might say. So it's a really fun project to do with people who are not comfortable making art, because by the end of the process, they are really proud of themselves and they've done something that's pretty awesome. Part 3 is witness and reflect. So what happens in the process is that the making of the art, which takes up most of the physical and mental space of the workshop, we invite people to come to a stopping place. And the thing about the art making is that we only have so much time, and the process is time limited. And we sort of lean into that and use that as a way to assure people that they don't have to finish. They don't have to have a completed work of art. We're just going to make art during this time, and then we're going to come to a stopping place. And once you've stopped, you can always go back to it later. It can be something that informs other work that you do if you are an artist. If you've been completely frustrated by the process, you can also throw it away. That's fine too. Believe me, I've done that. But at this point, we're asking people to reflect on the process itself and put those thoughts to paper. So, and everyone has their own take on this, but there's a few things that we invite people to consider. The first one is what came up for you. So, what was the process like? Did it bring up images or associations that surprised you, or did it offer you a way to think about something that that you've been sitting with? If it's not really, if there's not a clear answer to that, there's other things you can do. What does your image have to tell you? And there's some people are really good at this dialoguing with the work that they've made, and it makes for kind of fascinating writing. Is they'll ask the image itself questions like, "What do you have to tell me?" And the image will say something back based on the person's experience. And in that process, they will uncover um, something that they weren't aware of that needed to be said or needed to be explored, a memory, an experience, something that was again inside that they might not have had words for. And part of this, the witness writing process, what it can do is take those things that have been externalized visually that you didn't have words for, and you can maybe find some words that may be good. Maybe it doesn't directly address the issue that this brings up, but it starts to give you words so that you can process this information, you can take it into another form, and you can communicate that to other people. The other thing that we invite people to do is silence their inner critic. When we talk about no comment, that's not only for other people, that's also for ourselves. And I hear this all the time, especially with adults who are really hard on themselves and are convinced that they cannot produce anything of value artistically. And we're asking that person to go on mute. That inner critic needs to just not show up right now. And it's amazing how close to the surface that inner critic is for lots of people. And part of that is just a byproduct of stress and maybe prior trauma. There's all kinds of psychological stuff going on there, and we're just inviting people to not invite that critic to the circle, and we're really going to ride the process for where it's going to take us. And also, the best advice: just keep the pen moving. So when people are writing, we just let it go. It's a process too. So we've invited people to make art in a way that is process oriented and just trust it and go with it. And the same goes for the writing as well. And here's another group of trainees who are deep into the witness writing project. This is what you're seeing here is the final day of a 4-day training. So these are people who are trained to be facilitators, and they have gone through the drawing, the painting, and the sculpture process, and now they are doing an overall witness of the work that they've made during the week. Those are also always really interesting. Here's a sample, again, those cards that we do for those one-time workshops. This is a great witness. I made a bicycle with training wheels because I can't ride a bike without them. This is a teenager, by the way. In the beginning, I felt calm, but now I feel even more calmer. It made me forget about all the stress in my life. So, when we get these, and when we work with groups, we ask people if we can hold on to their witnesses, and every now and then we'll get one like this, and it's just like you got to pump the fist and be like, yes, they got it. It's amazing. And then the final step in the process is sharing and listening. We tend to really focus on things like don't comment, share with the group, and we sort of emphasize our role in the making and the writing and the sharing. But it's really I do always remind people that there's another side to that, which is that we are receiving other people's the fruits of their creativity as well as we are giving them. So with the sharing, we ask people to read to read what they've written if they're comfortable to. You don't have to. And we invite them to read all, some, or none of what they've written. And if they're going to share what they've written, we ask them to share exactly what they've written, and not to explain and not to kind of give it context and embellish, because it's really about what has happened in the moment, because the process is all about the present. And if we start to explain and sort of go off on tangents, then we kind of lose the thread of the process and it becomes something else. And what we really want people to do is stay in the process and stay in that present moment where they created this piece and then how they've reflected on it. And then again, that other part of it is listening. And we tell people that it's important that when we are listening, we're listening to understand, not respond. And what you come to find when you think about listening and how we listen as people, most of the time we're having conversations. So if I'm talking to someone, I am listening mostly, but I'm also immediately thinking about, well, how am I going to respond? So I'm not listening to everything. I'm not doing the kind of deep listening that we're talking about here, because when you are listening to respond or react, then I'm kind of like waiting. When can I jump in, and what am I going to say, and then what's going to happen after that? So again, totally out of the present moment, and it's less about the person who's talking, and it's more about me and what I'm going to say. So when we ask people to listen to understand, that's it's no comment. It's just receive, and that's new for a lot of people, and it's a really powerful thing to be able to do, is just sit there and listen and receive. Um, and what you're doing is that you're experiencing the work of these other people, the rest of the community you're with. And if you are receiving that work without judgment, then you're going to get an awful lot more out of it than, when you take yourself out of the equation and you just listen and you just look. It's an amazing experience, and you'll learn a lot about the people around you, and you will also learn a lot about how you respond to different kinds of information. This is that same group of trainees. I don't know, I have so many pictures of them. I guess they're very photogenic. This is that same group listening to the one person who is sharing their writing. So I really just want to kind of circle back to no comment. We've been through all of the stages of the process itself, and um, this idea of not commenting on people's work, either and crucially during the creating of the work. If you're getting feedback while you're making something, it can go all different kind of ways. It'll take you out of the process. And when we say no comment, we're not just saying don't criticize people. We're also saying that praise or positive messages are also, that's another form of feedback that can take people out of the process. So just by having a blanket statement that we're not going to comment, that's crucial to providing this sense of psychological safety, because we're not going to worry about what other people are going to say. And I know that when I say something, people are just going to listen, and I'm going to be validated in that way. And if you're creating and you're only listening to yourself, and you don't have to listen to what other people giving you input, then your own voice is your guide, and you know exactly what you're making and why you're making it, and there's a tremendous clarity to that. And these are 2 points that another one of our facilitators made that I thought were really very, very pithy. Praise can make people perform. So rather than, being the authentic self that they showed up with, they start to do something else. So you're performing for someone else. You're not being your own authentic self. And then the flip side is criticism can make people stop. So if you are being criticized, if someone is being critical of something you feel strongly about, then you're just going to shut down, and that's the last thing we want. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of wrap things up with the talkie with inviting everyone who's here. So I've just talked in very abstract academic terms about this process. The best way to learn about the process is to just do it. So during the week, we have three opportunities to do that. We have an in-person class at our studio, 903 Sherman in Evanston. If you are a local person and would like to get in on that, it's a 6-week session. And we have a new session starting November 6th, I believe, whatever that Thursday is. And if you would like to get in on that, there's a QR code. And I'm going to sound like a used car salesman, but for tonight only, you can use the code NAMI10 and get 10% off of the cost of that class. If you want to dip your toe in a little bit on a smaller scale, you can do individual virtual classes. So we meet on Zoom Thursday mornings and Friday mornings with different facilitators. And Zoom has been an incredible way to do the process, which, who knew? But during the pandemic, we pivoted like everybody else. We did a lot of programming over Zoom, and we found that it is actually a really great way to translate the Open Studio process. It's still a safe space. It's a place where people can make art in their own space. They can then witness and share. They can do all the components of the process, and the sharing becomes really, just from my experience, very impactful because it's in some ways a lot easier to listen to people on Zoom because you don't have the in-person sort of distractions that are happening. But it's a really interesting sort of development, and it's something that has stuck around. And the people who started to do it during the pandemic, once we could come back in person, they still want to do it. And we have people who join from different cities, and it's a really wonderful way to do the process. So that bottom QR code will lead you to our website where you can sign up for those classes if you would like to. And that brings us to our Q&A. And I think maybe I'll just stop sharing. Yeah, I think that's all I got. So thank you all for listening. I know that was an awful lot of information. I try to do lots of images and keep it moving that way, but it's a lot of ground to cover. So I hope that was helpful and interesting.
That was great. I really appreciated that.
So are there any questions or any comments or anything I can dive deeper into? So one thing that comes up from time to time is in the context of no comment. There are definitely times when people ask for feedback, and whether it's if we're working with little kids and they come up to you with a drawing and say, "Do you like this?"
Hmm.
Or even adults who are like, "Do you like this?" And our whole thing is we're not going to comment. We're not going to sort of interfere in the process in that way. But we have found that there's a way around that, which is offering feedback that is not like a value judgment, and it's an acronym that I learned at a training and the acronym is SWAN, SWAN, and it stands for I see, I wonder, I appreciate, and I notice. And those are all like, sort of like when we talk about intention setting, those are all sort of active words that we can use to talk to our participants so that they know that we're seeing them and we're hearing them, but we're not going to say, oh, this is awesome, you're a great artist, wow, that's terrible. We're not going to give that kind of feedback. It's really sort of reflecting back on them both. If I see is like just the facts. Okay, I see that you used a lot of paint here, and I see that you were really careful with your scissors or whatever, depending on the age. So wonder is more, it goes a little bit deeper and asks the person to think about other possibilities. Like I wonder what would happen if you used red instead of yellow, which is a dumb example. Or I wonder what you were thinking about when you made this family of bears. And again, it's like we're probing a little bit, and we're saying I'm interacting with this art, and it's really interesting, and things are coming up. What do you think? Um, appreciate, and then appreciate is awfully close to like, but not quite there. And it's a way of being like, oh, I appreciate how hard you worked on this, kind of praising the effort. I appreciate, this is another like youth orient. I appreciate how you cooperated with your table mate or whatever. And then notice takes that idea of seeing, which is just the facts, and shades it a little bit. It gets a little deeper. And sometimes it can be about the process itself. Like I noticed that you were struggling a little bit to finish the assignment, or I noticed that you went off by yourself to write and took a break. And then you can combine, you can follow up a notice with a wonder. I wonder if you needed to take a break and just were overwhelmed or whatever. So it's, again, this is all stuff to kind of um, let the participant know that you're in the process with them, and you're seeing them and hearing them. And I should have put a slide about that, but we have this, like, it's basically a coloring page, a picture of the swan with all the letters and all that. But again, that's just a little tool in the toolbox, and that's really what this whole thing is. The process is just a big old toolbox that anybody can use.
That's great. Okay, if there aren't any questions, thank you, Rob. I learned a lot, and I might be interested in taking the class myself. That's really wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to those who have joined. Um, yeah, we appreciate you coming. If you want to learn more, please visit Open Studio Project or namiccns.org. Our next webinar will be on November 12th, where we'll be learning about housing. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone who joined. I hope to see you again. Thank you again, Rob, and have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.